that it was just about 60% of the schools that had to now do this as of today. I'm now going to bring in the HOD for education in the province, Dr. Barney Mthembu. Dr. Mthembu, I understand that the MEC was unable to make it and he's offered his apologies. But let me bring you in on this point, the one that has been bothering people. That's the one of overcrowding, and especially in schools that are affected by high numbers. How are you going to mitigate that, or what measures have you put in place to mitigate that?
When we were planning for reopening of schools this year, we were planning on assumption that all learners were coming back in January. So we identified all schools which need mobile classrooms, and those which were storm damaged, where it affected learning and teaching space. And then we started procuring mobile classrooms, and as of now we ordered 244 mobile classrooms, but because the manufacturers are having a backlog, because there are many schools that need mobile classrooms, then we have already provided 190. So the balance is being manufactured for us to get the additional mobile classrooms.
What are the measures that are put in place in those particular schools where there's that shortfall so that they can continue as well right now?
We are actually having all learners there in all those schools. The only thing is that they will be a bit overcrowded whilst they are waiting for those mobile classrooms. But we want mobile classrooms in those schools because we want to ease the pressure of overcrowding.
And that has remained a concern, and I know that there were engagements that led up to this point where we are now, returning to a normal timetable. What have you done beyond that to ease those concerns of both parents, teachers and pupils themselves now that we go back to what it used to be like?
We are doing our best to ensure that all the issues which were there before we decided on rotation, we deal with them. And also we must know and remember that the issue of overcrowding, that is the main one, was there even before the pandemic. And we'll continue trying to resolve that problem. Two ways of resolving them. That problem, it's one, we are trying to build new schools, and we're also providing mobile classrooms where we cannot build new schools. Remember, the mobile classrooms should be a temporal measure. Eventually, or at the end of the day, all of us must think about building a new school, because a mobile classroom is just as good as a shack. It doesn't have a long life. Therefore, we are trying by all means to see how we can plan and budget for the building of new schools. Were it not for the COVID-19 pandemic, we would have built more schools, because we understand that mobile classrooms are temporary.
Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Mthembu. I appreciate that. That's also the plan here at the KZN Education Department, to build more schools. I think Dr. Mthembu put it quite nicely that mobile classrooms are really just that, a temporary solution. But before I throw it back to you, I have to tell you that the kids of today are a lot different. I had an opportunity to speak to some of them. Do you know, of the roughly 7 or 8 of these kids that I spoke to, not one of them is complaining about returning to a full-time system. In fact, they're telling me that they miss their friends.
That's why they're in school, right?